This is Lecture 3 for Class 1. We're going to continue our discussion about primary law. In this lecture, we are going to focus on where and how you can find primary law. Regardless of the jurisdiction, access to primary laws is similar. When statutes and regulations are first issued, they are published chronologically, and this is unhelpful for researchers. Can you imagine trying to find out how to pay the taxman if the tax law was first published in 1970 and has had 10 amendments since then? You would have to track down all of that information and figure out what was amended and what was not at any given point in time. Instead, we like to see our materials organized by topic. Statutes and regulations are republished in sets known as codes. A code publishes the laws in subject arrangement, and groups like things together. An example of an important code is the United States Code, which publishes all of the federal statutes and organizes them by topic. Another example is the Code of Federal Regulations, which publishes all of the federal regulations, and it is also organized by topic. Because statutes and regulations are amended frequently, you should always look to see when they were last printed in the publication you are looking at. This is to make sure you have the right version of the law that you need. And this is true whether the item is published in print or online. We will review this in more detail in class. Cases are also published chronologically in sets known as case reporters. A case reporter is usually tied to a jurisdiction, federal or state, and it is reflective of that jurisdiction's court structure. The materials published in codes and case reporters are represented by a citation. A citation is simply a way to tell you where to find the statute, regulation, or case. A citation to primary authority usually follows the format displayed on your screen. Title or volume number of the publication, followed by the name or abbreviation of the publication, and then the page or section number, as applicable. If you are retrieving a paper copy of the item, you would need to find the right volume and the right publication and then turn to your page or section number. If you were retrieving this item online, you would simply enter the citation in the search box. A good tool you can use to become familiar with the publications is your Blue Book. Table 1 in the Blue Book outlines the statutes, regulations, courts, and case reporters for each jurisdiction, beginning with the federal government and then listing each state alphabetically. For example, the entry highlighted here is for the cases from the Federal Court of Appeals. The Blue Book is telling us that cases from these courts are published in the Federal Reporter. It also tells you that you should abbreviate this reporter as F period, F period second, or F period third, depending on which series in which it's published. Reporters often have more than one series, and we'll review this more in class. In the federal court system, the trial-level courts are called federal district courts. The appellate courts are known as the U.S. Courts of Appeal. And of course, the highest court is the United States Supreme Court. Every state has at least one federal district court. There are 94 total district courts in the country. If you are going to appeal a decision from a district court, you will find yourself in the regional federal courts of appeal for that district. There are 13 federal courts of appeal. The courts of appeal are organized into regional circuits, plus a federal court of appeals which hears appeals in specialized cases. A court of appeals hears appeals from the district court located within its circuit, as well as appeals from decisions of federal administrative agencies. The Hawaii Federal District Court appeals to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Other states in the Ninth Circuit that bring their appeals to that Ninth Circuit Court are Alaska, Arizona, California, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. At the state level, each state has its own reporter. By using the Blue Book Table 1, you can track the court and relevant case reporters by turning to the entry in the state. The same is true for statutes, statutory reporters, regulations, and regulatory reporters. Hawaii, for example, is listed alphabetically between Georgia and Idaho. In addition to the particular case reporter for a state, many of the state's court decisions are reprinted in a case reporter known as a regional reporter. A regional reporter collects the court opinions for the group of states in that region. Hawaii, for example, is located in the Pacific Reporter series. The Supreme Court decisions and appellate court decisions from Hawaii are reprinted in the Pacific Reporter, along with the court decisions from Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Idaho, Kansas, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming. It is the largest region within the state case reporting system. This means that a court opinion may be published in more than one case reporter, the state case reporter and the regional reporter, and so it will have more than one citation. When a case has more than one citation or place of publication, we call that parallel citations. The Blue Book will tell you which citation to use in your briefs and papers. Unlike statutes and regulations, cases are not republished in a code organized by topic. Instead, to find cases, you will either perform a keyword search on a database or use a topical index known as a digest. Each case reporter will have its own digest that you can use to find cases on a particular issue. For example, the Hawaii Digest will digest the cases in Hawaii. This system of indexing is known as the key number system, and we will learn how to use these digests and this system in weeks 7 and 8 of class. Your job as a lawyer is to find the applicable law. It's important to remember that the law is constantly evolving and changing. Sometimes this means you have to find an older version of a statute, or you need to find a subsequent case. But first, you need to know how to access these materials to determine if you have the right law to begin with. Access to statutes and regulations is usually accomplished through an alphabetical subject index, or a keyword search on a database. Indexes tend to be at the back of a book, or if the publication is several volumes long, it will be at the end of the set. For example, at the end of the United States Code Annotated, there are several volumes of indexes to look up your search terms. To use an index, you look up your subject, and then it will point you to the appropriate law or regulation. It sounds simple enough, but choosing the right subject to look up can be challenging, and there's usually more than one subject you need to research for any given legal issue. It's important to brainstorm your keywords to come up with the right terms. Let me show you an example. If you wanted to look up the laws governing federal work study, in this example you would need to start with colleges and universities and then go to the subtopic of financial assistance to get to the work study program. The index then refers you to the appropriate title or volume number and the section that you need to read within this set. In this example, Title 42, United States Code Annotated, Section 2751. Sometimes an index is located in an online database to help the research navigate efficiently. On Westlaw Next, for example, you can find an online index that helps you search the database of the United States Code Annotated. By going to Federal Materials and selecting United States Code Annotated, you can see the table of contents for the United States Code that can help you navigate, or you can search the United States Code Annotated Index, which is located here under Tools and Resources. Let's briefly review what you learned in the 3 lectures for this class. We distinguished between primary authority and secondary authority. Primary authority consists of statutes, cases, and regulations. We discussed the 3 branches of government and the primary laws that each branch produces. Laws are referenced by using a system of citations. We also pointed out that the structure for the federal government is closely repeated for the 50 states and also for large municipalities. To access a statute or regulation by subject, you can use an index. Cases, they're published in case reporters. Use a digest for subject access. Just to point out what should be obvious, there are codes and case reporters for the federal government and for all 50 states. The Blue Book provides you with a quick way to identify the relevant publications for primary law for each state and for the federal government. This concludes our lectures for this week.